and eventually successfully did arrest Mayor of Newark, Ross Baraka. He was released several hours later, and he was charged with trespassing. The mayor says that these charges are false, that he did nothing wrong. Here, take a look. So the mayor is there at the center. In the red is Representative LaMonica McIver. Congresswoman Bonnie Watson-Coleman is also there in the midst of an 80-year-old woman in the.
So I'm going to comment on whether I think this is sloppy reporting from Kyle and Krystal, or Krystal and Kyle. Now, before I get into that, let me at least give you my perspective on where I'm coming from. I believe that people who entertain conversations about whether there's some similarities between Trump and Hitler are right on the money. And the only reason why many people don't get that is because we have a lot of people in this country who have a very simplistic way of thinking. And because of that, they view Hitler as one thing, the guy that killed all those Jews. So until Trump starts killing a bunch of people, it's going to be like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? How dare you make a comparison? They completely ignore, Trump as a baby, Trump as a young boy, Trump as a teenager, Trump as a 21-year-old. A lot of things happened before things got insane, right? So if we go back in time, right, and we go back to a time before Hitler started doing some really bad things, right? Imagine people getting concerned and other people being like, what are you talking about? Like, at what point in time do you see enough to be concerned? So I just want to make that clear. So I have that view. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is totally the way it's being presented. They're overstepping their authority. This is some dictator type deal. They're arresting this guy for no reason because he's challenging them, standing. I would totally be on board with that. I would not be surprised one bit. This is exactly the kind of thing that they would do. However, I care about the truth and I care about facts, right? So regardless of my opinion that I think that they would do something like that, every situation, whether it's something from the right or the left, I want to evaluate what's really happening rather than just go with my feelings. So my first initial question is, what's happening here? What is actually transpiring? I see a crowd of people. I see a bunch of agents and police. People are shoving and pushing around. What led up to this? And what led to the arrest?
The center of this action. So the Trump administration claimed that these members attempted to storm the ICE facility. This is not backed up by the video evidence and the eyewitness accounts on the scene. They have also now said that they are looking at potential charges against the members of Congress who were there to perform that oversight on that day. So in order to get a breakdown of everything that unfolded, the plans for the day, what the timeline was, the differences between what actually happened and what the administration is claiming unfolded, is the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, and New Jersey gubernatorial candidate Ross Baraka. I want to start off by getting your reaction to Tricia McLaughlin. She is the Trump administration's Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs at DHS, and her characterization of the events that unfolded leading up to your arrest. Let's go ahead and take a listen to that.
Thanks, Victor, for having me. I'm glad I can be here to actually give viewers the facts. What happened as that these members of Congress, including the mayor as well, and a mob of protesters, as there was a bus full of detainees going through the gate, they stormed the gate and actually entered the first security checkpoint. This put law enforcement at risk, and this actually put the detainees as
So I would, of course, want to know, did this actually happen? Was there an actual storming of the gate, and by whom? I want to see the video. She's making a claim. I want to see the evidence. The mayor's making a claim. I want to see his evidence, right? Truth actually matters. It should matter. I want to know what really happened. I don't trust the mayor or this woman, right? What I trust is what I could see with my own eyes and what evidence is presented. So show me the evidence.
well at risk. If any official, including these members of Congress, want to enter the facility and take a tour, DHS is more than accommodating. But just because you're a member of Congress does not mean you can break the law, trespass, put law enforcement at risk, and storm the detention facility.
So, first strike for the Trump side, she just said basically that they're allowed to be there, and then she says trespass. Why would they be trespassing if they're allowed to be there? Not sure what she means by that, but it sounds contradictory.
Yet to hear anyone on this network actually talk about who is in this detention facility. There are members of MS-13, known terrorists, murderers, child rapists. There are some of the
Irrelevant. Whoever's in there is not relevant. The only thing that's relevant is what did these people do that led to their arrest. We just want to know whether the arrest was valid or not. That's what matters. Who's in there? They could be 100% rapists. It would not matter one bit. The situation is, why did your people arrest these people? Did they actually do something unlawful, or are you guys just breaking the law yourselves and arresting your political opponents?
worst of the worst in this detention facility. And I'm still very confused why these Democrats are so hell-bent on getting these heinous actors out of this facility when we have the proper permitting. And actually, in that press conference, those members of Congress actually noted the great conditions of this facility that our ICE enforcement officers so bravely operate.
So, Mayor, what is your response to her allegation there that you and these members of Congress stormed the facility?
Either she's misinformed because she wasn't there, or she's just flat out lying. I mean, it's insane how these people behave. Like, they lie over and over again, and they figure if they lie enough, people will believe it. It's the truth. The reality is nobody stormed the gate. When I got there, the members of Congress were already inside. They were in a booth. They didn't go all the way in, but they were in a booth. So they were there waiting over an hour for Homeland Security officials to come to give them a scheduled visit that they had through the building. So they didn't have to storm. They were invited there, right? So that right there is a flat out lie. All of this stuff about being assaulting people, all of it is wrong. I mean, either she's misinformed or she's just lying.
So him talking about that they're allowed to be there is a little bit sounding like a potential deflection or potential manipulation tactic, right? Because what he's talking about is not what we see, right? Trump people making a claim about them storming in and all that. I think there's some claims about assault. He's making claims, hey man, we're allowed to be there, everything was fine, and then all of a sudden. But that's not what the video shows. The video shows a mob and some kind of a back and forth with ICE and these people pushing, and it's like, how did that group get assembled? Like, how did they end up in that particular scenario? What led to what we see in the video? He's not articulating that right now. He's missing a lot of details. Why is that? That's just an omission, accidental omission, or is he hiding something? Right? Why is he was there? Why can't he articulate how things got to what we see in the video? Because that's not what I'm hearing from him.
So you arrive, the members of Congress are already there inside the gates. And then what happens from there?
So that's a very good question. Krystal's actually doing a good job on that kind of question. I don't think she's going to really hold the line and do the real journalist thing and get him to articulate the details. But that's a good question, because she's thinking like I'm thinking right now. Tell me the details. Lay out the timeline. What happened? How did we get from you visiting the facility to this chaos that we saw and you getting arrested? Right? I mean, it'd be crazy if they just went and just arrested him for no reason. I mean, even if it's a bogus reason, why is he not saying that? Like, I've been arrested for bogus reasons. And if you ask me about it, I wouldn't sound like this guy. I would tell you the bogus reason. And I wouldn't just say whatever, like I'm telling you my feelings. I would say, listen, the guy told me, if you don't such and such, I'm going to arrest you. And then I didn't do it, so then he arrested me or something like that. Like for example, one time I got arrested, I didn't feel safe, and I was on the phone with 911 dispatch. The officer didn't like that, right? I told him I'm on with the dispatch. I wasn't fighting. I wasn't disrespecting. I didn't do nothing wrong. So I can articulate. Like, I can tell you my position in terms of I didn't do anything wrong, but I'm also telling you why I got arrested. I think it's a bogus reason, but I'm telling you why, and I'm being very specific. I'm telling you the words. This is what the officer said to me. I don't get that from this mayor. He's not saying somebody came up to me and said, you can't, like a warning or a threat, or even somebody saying you're under arrest. We don't see it in the video. We don't see somebody saying you're under arrest. Like, what led to the actual being under arrest? Because I don't know this guy. I don't trust politicians, right? What if he stepped out of line, right? If he stepped out of line and he gave them a reason to arrest him, then what's going to happen is they're going to feed those truths to the right-wing media, and they're going to jump in and they're going to say, left-wing media lying again, talking about this and it's all a stunt and da-da-da-da. And then what they're going to do, they're going to be some independent person watching this, and they're going to be like, man, I thought that they were just doing some Hitler type stuff. Come to find out, the mayor actually, I see in the video, that's on Ben Shapiro's channel, he actually punched the ICE officer. You can't do that and get away with it. Case in point, look at this video released by AP News. And ask yourself why Kyle isn't showing this. Why Krystal isn't showing this. If they want to be better than mainstream media, why is it that they don't have the interest enough to simply show us the videos that are out there? Like, this is what they do for a living. If I could find this video, why can't they? So in this video, we're going to play it back in slow motion. Look at the woman in red. And I think in context of this officer right here. Does she strike this officer either accidentally or on purpose? Let's see. And this is exactly the kind of stuff like a right-wing channel would do. Right? Lie with the truth. There might be some truth to where she did strike. Like you see where her arm is, right? Where she did actually strike the officer. And then if the right-wing media are the only people showing you this, then it makes it look like the left-wing media are lying and doing fake news. Right? That's what it looks like. Because why would they hide this? Why would they not show it? Unless they trying to hide it intentionally. Right? It's not a good look. So let's play back. Let's see what happens. Again, pay attention to this officer in front of her. Look at where her arm is. Why is her arm almost... I think she's in contact with him already. She's on him. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. You saw him lean forward? Did she push on him? Is she being pushed on? Notice how close her body is to him. Her body's right on him. As far as people pushing her, there's a lot of distance between them and her. Right? I see arms, but those arms look outstretched. Hers look bent, and she's look at his whole arm and her. Like, what is she doing right now? Look. What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? She's on him. Look. You see that? You saw her fist right there. Like, you know, some right winger gonna show this and be like, look. That's why you need to care enough to tell the whole story so your audience is fully informed. So when some parasite and right-wing media tries to go and, oh, look at this, they're like, no, I saw that already. I'm aware of this. Right? Rather than it looking suspicious, like you were trying to hide something. Like, what's really happening here? What is she doing? Look, look, I think it's obvious that she definitely made contact with that officer multiple times. The question would be why, what's happening. We'd obviously want to hear her statement. But it's not like the way it's being presented, like, oh, they were just standing there and all of a sudden, oh, you're under arrest, you're under arrest. More than that happened, and for some reason, they don't want to talk about that. They just want to talk about, oh, they just arrested us. And then left-wing liberal media is just jumping along and going along, oh, yeah, that's what they're doing now. They're arresting Democrats, as if that means something. Right? This is a danger of not caring about getting to the truth and just focusing on pushing a certain rhetoric or whatever gets clicks or feeding into your bias or whatever it is that's happening here.
They're already in the booth. I don't even see them because they're in the building, in a waiting area, waiting to get the tour. There are people outside who are there every day. I mean, there are protesters outside who are there every single day, by the way. They're there today as well. So, I mean, outside of the Congress people, outside of me, they're protesters. They're going to be there and they have a right to be there, right? Outside of the gate. You know, I arrived there waiting for the press conference that is supposed to happen after that. She alluded to. There's a scheduled press conference that's supposed to happen at 1:30 outside of that gate. But obviously it didn't happen at that time because these people never arrived when they were supposed to.
They charge you obviously with trespassing, which I know you dispute.
Right. I didn't break any law. First of all, if I'm on the property, somebody let me in the property or invited me in the property. That's what happened. I walked in there. I didn't kick, push, shove, run. I sat in there with ICE agents for over an hour. ICE agents were in there with me for over an hour. They didn't do anything to me. They didn't say anything. They didn't ask me to go. I just sat there. It wasn't until the special agent in charge showed up, who probably was given orders to approach me, and that's what he did. He approached me. The Congress people responded, trying to stop him from harassing me.
So listen to what he's saying. He's saying he went in, they let him in, he's sitting down waiting for some meeting or whatever, and 2 minutes later, 3 minutes later, 4 minutes later, 5 minutes later, 6 minutes later, 7 minutes later, 8 minutes later, 9 minutes later, 10 minutes later, 11 minutes later, 12 minutes later, 13 minutes later, 14 minutes later, 15 minutes later, 16 minutes later, 17 minutes later, 18 minutes later, 19 minutes later, 20 minutes later, 21 minutes later, 22 minutes later, 23 minutes later, 24 minutes later, 25 minutes later, 26 minutes later, 27 minutes later, 28 minutes later, 29 minutes later, 30 minutes later, 31 minutes later, 32 minutes later, 33 minutes later, 34 minutes later, 35 minutes later, 36 minutes later, 37 minutes later, 38 minutes later, 39 minutes later, 40 minutes later, 41 minutes later, 42 minutes later, 43 minutes later, 44 minutes later, 45 minutes later, 46 minutes later, 47 Nothing's happening. He's just waiting. Then all of a sudden, this agent in charge rolls up and starts approaching him. Then he said he was harassing him. In what way? How was he harassing you? What was he doing? What was he saying? Why is it that there are certain details that just get omitted? They're not in the videos. First of all, you have body cam footage, so why would the "you're under arrest" be omitted from that footage? Right? How do you arrest someone without saying they're under arrest? Right? Where's that part?
I left the gate. Told me to get out. I left and went out. They came outside of the gate and proceeded to try to arrest me outside of the gate after I already left the property. The Congress people and people that were standing by got engaged in it because they were being very, very, very aggressive. So obviously, if you come outside of the gate, that's what's going to happen, and that's what they did. They took me, and these are the ones that dragged me back onto the property in cuffs. They cuffed me and dragged me back into the property and arrested me for trespassing.
So I'm sure you know, Mayor, that the administration is now threatening those members of Congress who were there with you.
So I just did a quick little check, and from what I'm seeing, it looks like my suspicions might be at least somewhat accurate. And I don't know why Krystal or Kyle are not reporting on the footage that I'm seeing apparently was released, which shows the very things I'm asking about. Like, why is it that my natural instinct says, where is the "you're under arrest"? Where is the threat? Right? Why is it that when he talks, he doesn't articulate any details leading up to the arrest? He just makes it sound like, they just arrest me for nothing, which is a typical thing that a lot of people do when they're being dishonest, right? We've seen so many videos where somebody acts the fool, right? They cross some line, and then they just claim, and an officer just came and arrested me for no reason, whatever. And then you look at the video, and it's kind of like, it wasn't for no reason, right? The guy gave you a warning, such and such, and then you didn't follow the instruction, or whatever it was, right? We know it goes both ways. There'll be times where the person, was in the right, and they got violated. But we also see the flip, where the person is just straight up lying to people looking for sympathy, and they go like, I didn't even do nothing, and they come and arrested me. And that's what he sounds like. Like, that's my natural instinct. And then when I look into it, I'm seeing quotes saying, "Mr. Mayor, anyone that is not a congresswoman or man, step back. It's your last warning. You'll be placed under arrest." So naturally, this is exactly what I expected. At some point in time, there was a threat of arrest, and there was a reasoning behind it. It sounds like he had a bunch of people around him that were not Congress people, like in the video you see, right? And they told him they have to step back. You can't come in with all these people. And I see in the reporting that he did exit like he says, and he rejoined the protesters. And then minutes later, the ICE agents surrounded him and arrested him. Now, we'll have to see what comes of the investigation, but this sounds to me like a very familiar scenario. The mayor was probably trying to, for whatever reason, do whatever he wanted to do. They're telling him, no, these people need to stand back or whatever, and he's cursing at them or whatever he's doing. And they probably made multiple threats to him, and he's ignoring them. Now, the question is, what should he be doing exactly? Because is he expected to control these other people? But it also depends on how his interactions were. Like is he like riling up the crowd? Like let's be objective here. Let's not call out the terrorists on January 6th, and that's what they were. I'm not saying there's terrorism happening here, but I'm just saying let's not call out the terrorists on January 6th, right? And call out the people who riled up the crowd, right? And put blame on them. Like, okay, you didn't do nothing violent. You didn't necessarily break any direct laws, right? In terms of breaking windows or whatever, but you riled up the crowd that did do that. So it is very possible that this mayor could have conducted himself in such a way that was making the situation hostile and dangerous, which potentially led to his arrest. Now, we could debate whether whatever he did warranted him being arrested, right? Like, is he telling them, don't let them tell you nothing, you guys move in? Like, is he agitating the crowd? Like, we need to know those details. But the thing about it is, Why isn't he telling us this? Why is he keeping these details from us? Why did I have to do research to find out? Like, I could tell stuff was missing. I don't know why Krystal and Kyle can't see it. Like, it seemed very obvious from the very beginning. From the first time I saw this, I saw it on Kyle's channel. And right away, I'm just like, what is happening here? What are we looking at? What is this video? It's just a bunch of people, like, shouting and whatever. And Kyle starts off the video like, they're arresting Democrats. As if that means something. Democrats are not above the law. So why are you talking about they're arresting Democrats as if that means something? That doesn't mean anything, right? If you want to say they're arresting Democrats for no reason, right? Or they're illegally arresting Democrats, that's different. But he didn't say that. He just kept saying, oh, they're arresting Democrats. Oh, they arrested Democrats now. I mean, what is your audience to think when you say something like that? You're going to think like I do when I look at the Trump administration. I say Trump has too many parallels with Hitler, right? And what did Hitler do? Arrest his opponents. So if you start making a video talking about arresting Hitler, like, if I don't have the critical thinking, I'm going to be like, oh man, here it comes, right? And I wouldn't be surprised that they do that. So that's why I would be susceptible to believing that, like many of Kyle's audience, I'm sure, were, right? Without the critical thinking of like, what is actually happening here? And they just take his words. They take Krystal's words. But what really happened? And again, the danger of this, because some people are like, oh, what does it matter? Listen, man, this is part of the reason why we're in the situation we're in. There were many people who voted for Bernie who ended up voting for Trump. How does that happen? Sloppy reporting like this leads to right-wing parasites jumping on top of this to paint the left as just a bunch of liars. They say we're fake news. They're fake news. They said the mayor this, and then that's not actually true. They're hiding the footage, right? They make a very convincing argument to some independent voters who are like, wow. And I actually thought that this was like some Hitler type stuff, and come to find out, they're just lying. Next thing you know, that's a new Ben Shapiro fan. That's a new Steven Crowder fan. Then next election, they end up voting for some lunatic, right? This stuff matters, right? The truth matters. Having some kind of professional standard of like journalism matters. You want to talk all day about mainstream media, and then this is how you're reporting on stuff? You're quick to, oh, this gonna get some views. You don't want to spend the time to do the homework and dig in. I mean, props for Krystal to interview the guy. Like, that helps. And then partially it's like she sees he's not telling the full story. But is she going to grill him like she would if this was some crazy, MAGA person? I'm guessing not. I'm guessing she let him slide with his evasive tactics of not telling the full story. Knowing damn well that, in terms of Krystal, that her audience is probably not going to really care. Right? Even if we find out, like, oh, he kind of wasn't telling the truth, it's kind of like, well, we got to fight back and the resistance and blah, 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 blah. So even them knowing that they've been misled by the story, and then me revealing that when this happens, this emboldens right-wing media, this emboldens the people that you claim you're fighting against, even that is not going to faze most people. They're just going to be like, whatever, he's fighting back and whatever, and look at what Trump did, and da-da-da. Wow. As far as trespassing, and it wouldn't be surprising if there's dishonesty on both sides of the situation, and please don't mistake this for some kind of both sides position here. This is just a raw truth position, not trying to pander to any group, right? I will clearly say what the fake both sidesers or the centrists won't say, right? That the Trump administration, Trump himself, is heading us in a direction that Hitler himself went on. And again, most people, once they hear that Hitler word, all they can think about is gas chambers. A lot happened before the gas chambers, people. Right? So I believe that is what's happening. This is a severe attack of our country. Right? So I'm not equating that both sides are the same and they're corrupt. No. One side is definitely deeply corrupt. They make the Democrats look like angels, and the Democrats are corrupt. They're frauds. So for you to make them look like angels in comparison, that's how bad the Republicans are and MAGA is. Right? So this ain't no false equivalency. This is just raw truth. Saying the truth, whether people want to hear it or not. Right? This is not going to be a popular video. I'm not going to get a lot of views. I'm not going to get a lot of likes. There's not a lot of people that are trying to hear what I'm saying, but I'm not here to say what people want to hear.
You with arrest as well, and they are sharing some body camera footage that they claim shows some of these members of Congress, in their view, assaulting these officers, masked officers who were there. Let me just go ahead and show you a little bit of that. So it's extremely chaotic. That's Representative McIver in the red, I believe. Can you just tell us what we're looking at there and what?
So, what I see when I look at that footage, with an objective lens, nonpartisan lens, I don't see enough to, as proof of their claims, the Trump administration claims. However, I see enough that I could see that it could have been true. I see, especially that woman in red, I see her arm swinging around. Right? I see her arm swinging around. Did she hit the officer by accident or intentionally? I mean, she definitely looks like she's a little bit out of control. Now, I say that without the context of me actually being there. But I mean, I definitely don't see her complying and calmly, whatever. I see somebody highly agitated. What do highly agitated people do, typically? Right? Highly agitated people involved with the police. We've seen many videos like that. They usually end up crossing some lines. The only question is, what line did she cross if she did? And do they have better evidence than that shaky video? Because if that's all they got, I don't know, man. I don't think they have a case if that's all they got. So maybe the mayor will walk. However, and again, apparently they have footage of saying he's going to be arrested because of all these crowds of people. Now the question again is, what part of that is a crime? And I told you what part would be if he's like, well, potentially, I'm not a lawyer, right? Potentially, if he's egging on the crowd or whatever. I mean, it's like January 6th. You went to January 6th and in the Capitol, you were in the Capitol, you didn't break any windows, you didn't assault anyone, you didn't make any threats, right? But you were at an event where the Capitol was assaulted. A mob assaulted our Capitol, right? Major laws were violated, and you were there, right? So simply because you specifically didn't do anything directly, like you maybe didn't push them or whatever, depending on your actions and your words in the context of what other people around you were doing, then it gets a little sticky. Case in point, I could go with some guys to go rob a bank, and I'm the lookout. I don't even go in the bank, right? I'm not even in the original car, right? I could come on a bicycle and I just stay across the street and I'm the lookout. They roll up in their car, go in with guns, rob the bank, roll out. Police are chasing them. And in the chase, a police officer loses control of their car, right? Through their own fault, their own driving, they made a mistake, and they die. I get charged with murder just like the other two guys. Even though I didn't actually rob the bank, and I certainly didn't kill anybody. That's an extreme example, but it just to illustrate that even if this mayor didn't actually hit anybody or whatever, context really matters. His conduct around what was happening, depending on what was happening, could incriminate him. Now, I haven't seen evidence to support that, so we've got to see what happens in court. But I think it's dangerous and irresponsible to present this mayor as he's the good guy and they just arrested him for no reason. To ignore the suspicious way that he's speaking, the details that he's not talking about, to not ask those questions about why he's not being forthright in what happened, right? Look at it this way. If he were in a court of law, this would not fly. Right? And I recognize it's not a court of law, but I'm just saying to illustrate the point that he's not answering Krystal's questions about what really happened. He's saying a lot of stuff, but there's certain details, like the step by step, like what led to the arrest. I mean, if we're getting reports that they said to him, they gave him a warning, why would he not mention that? Why would he not mention they said this is your last warning? I mean, to not mention that would definitely lead a lot of people to be on his side and feel like, oh, they just arrested him for no reason. Right? So is that a mistake, or is that an intentional omission trying to mislead people? And is Krystal helping him do that? What do you think? This is the Debate Me channel. Debate me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well.
So they were pushing them off of me. If you see the whole video, there's several videos out there with all kinds of viewpoints. Several people were thrown to the ground. Several bystanders were thrown to the ground by agents. They were pushed. They were shoved. If you see people being pushed, it is them pushing the Congress people. And you can hear people in the background saying, don't touch them. Keep your hands off of them. You're not supposed to touch them. They're members of Congress.
Mayor, one thing that I think has disturbed a lot of people is the use of masks by these federal agents in this situation and many others that we've seen with ICE arresting immigrants across the country. What do you make of the significance of this widespread use of masking to obscure the face of these federal agents?